What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole Ladshaw. And St. John starts their 25-26 season by hanging 108 points on MAC preseason favorite Quinnipiac and our old friend Tom Pecora. 54 points in the first, 54 points in the second, an even split. St. John showed their offensive muscle. Cole, your thoughts on St. John's opening night win against Quinnipiac?
College basketball is back, baby. Wire to wire win. What are we, 1-0 on the way to 39, 40-0 undefeated national championship season? I thought St. John's looked every bit of the number 5 team in the nation. I think they are that good, that talented. Who knows how good Quinnipiac is? I guess picked as the MAC favorites, but just an impressive win. Awesome to see Dillon Mitchell play that way. I'm so excited to watch him for a full season. We'll get into it. Ian Jackson, up and down performance, but from an efficiency standpoint, literally perfect on the court shooting wise. So that's awesome to see. I just thought that you had a lot of great individual performances. Rick, in his post-game press conference, said that he was absolutely thrilled with the performance. Thought the exhibition games against Michigan and Townsend really had us prepared for the regular season, unlike last year. Just can't wait for Saturday, man. Bring on Alabama.
Okay, that's interesting because I watched the game on replay. I couldn't watch it live. I didn't get a chance to hear Coach Pitino's press conference or any of his quotes. So you're saying he was pleased with the effort? That
Yep.
I mean, not surprised. I think we played well enough for a coach to be happy. But I am a little surprised that Rick would go out and praise his team.
Said he couldn't be more pleased.
Okay, there you have it. Basketball is such a snapshot sport, right? And sometimes you can get lost in the moment. I think if we played like this in our first exhibition against Towson, our fans would have been, through the roof excited and really put a stamp on those preseason rankings. Instead, there was some, hesitation. We didn't come out and knock the doors right off against Towson and then, losing to Michigan. I think some guys were trying to find the right expectations, but then you come out here and you score 108 points and you look so good offensively. I think fans will jump back up towards those expectations and be really excited to see where this team can go. Obviously, you mentioned it, Quinnipiac is not the same test we'll see this weekend against Alabama, but I thought they had some quality pieces, pretty good athletes. They got out and ran a little bit, forced us to do some things, but the talent discrepancy was easy to see out there, and St. John's really put it to them. Good for those new pieces to get their feet wet. You mentioned Jackson, 6 for 6 from the field after an opening turnover to start the game, and I'm sure some fans were pointing at the screen saying, "Here we go again." But he settled in, and most importantly, shots started to fall for St. John's. So much more cohesive offensive team, scoring in transition and hitting some shots from three. So a little bit better preview of what this team could be offensively.
Yeah. I think Ian Jackson had a little bit of foul trouble, a little bit less minutes probably than Rick would have liked. Didn't share the sugar, 0 assists, I think 2 turnovers, but led the team a plus minus, a plus 31. You shoot like that, you shoot perfect from the field. Like, I'll take that any day of the week. I think a lot has been said preseason about Ian Jackson and high expectations returning home to New York City. I think a little bit of patience is required here. I think he will find his footing. He's still kind of unclear as to what his role is. Like, is he the point guard? Is Isaiah Sellers the point guard? Is he more playing off ball in a shooting guard role? I think he'll find his footing. He's so uberly talented. We have a tremendous player on our hands. And let us not forget how bad we freaked out about Kadari Richmond in the early season last year, and then ultimately the player that he was for the second half of the season. Let's use that as sort of a barometer for how to handle this situation if Ian Jackson starts a little slower than we like.
Yeah, as short as the college basketball season is, it is a long season, right? And guys have many seasons throughout a long season. And we saw Kadari really turn it up once he got comfortable with Rick's expectations and the system and the pace of play. So that's a good note to keep that in mind. And these guys will continue to improve as they get more accustomed to Coach Pitino's system. 6 for 6 from the field, but like you said, 1 rebound, no assists, right? So I think a big topic, and at least in my mind, of how we're thinking about how this team's going to flow throughout the season is that guard play at that 2 and the wing, and then of course the 1, which we'll get to, I'm sure. But I think the clearest thing from these three sample size games we have is that it's going to be so hard to keep Mitchell off the court. And the same goes for Zuby, and I believe the same will go for Hopkins. And then you're left with a little bit of a pickle here with Coach Pitino finding the rooms and the role and the allocation for you got Jackson, you've got Shannon, you've got Sellers, and of course you've got Darling, Lefty, even Ayo. All those guys who fill in that guard wing spot, and I think it's just going to be an interesting thing to watch. If we don't have any injuries, and fingers crossed we don't, it will be I think almost a by committee who's hot, who's doing all those other things on a game-to-game basis to fill those 1 and 2 minutes, because I don't foresee a situation unless, like I said, God forbid, an injury or just a terrible cold spell where Hopkins or Mitchell are getting less than 20 minutes in an important game.
Yeah, you brought up Dillon Mitchell. I mean, what an unbelievable performance. Don't you wish we had him for like the beginning of his career, as he said multiple times so far this preseason? God, I wish he had come here so much earlier in his career. One of the things I'm most amazed with Dillon is his ability and comfortability handling the ball. I mean, I kind of took it as a joke when people like Zach and Dave started saying this point forward role for Dillon Mitchell. I didn't think that was real. And now he seems so comfortable getting a rebound and immediately pushing it, starting to break himself, taking the ball out of bounds and just, handling it comfortably, walking the ball up the court. It seems like that's going to be, a real possibility for somebody who's doing a lot of handling and a lot of initiating of the offense. Obviously 18 points, 7 boards, 4 steals, right behind Ian Jackson at plus 30, plus minus. You mentioned not being able to get him off the court. I think that was probably my biggest takeaway from Dillon's performance yesterday is we know his career problems with free throw shooting. I think that has to be a really important point of emphasis for Rick and the coaching staff to improve his free throw shooting, because I don't think we can take him off the court. I don't think in a tight game against better competition late in the game that you can have him sitting on the bench because he can't shoot free throws well. That absolutely has to improve. He has to be on the court the whole game because he is that big of an impact player. I mean, he legitimately in that first, what was the beginning run, 12-0 or something, in that beginning run by St. John's, he completely took the game over, stealing the ball, dunking. It was just incredible. I am so uberly impressed with Dillon Mitchell. And I think my favorite thing from him yesterday was his post-game press conference quote. He was talking about the rings that were handed out, the pregame ceremony, the rings that were handed out to the players that were here last year. And Dillon said, "I want rings and banners for all of us. We have the team to do it, but it all starts every day at practice." I looked at Zuby's finger and I was like, man, I want one of those. Perfect kid.
Perfect kid. Yeah. I guess maybe we could be thankful he wasn't here earlier, because Coach Pitino might have developed that jump shot so quickly that he would have been gone to the pros before this season even happened. Obviously, I say that in jest, but it's similar to Kadari Richmond last year, right? Like that jump shot was what limited him as a pro prospect and had him land in our laps in a season we really needed. And the same thing with Dillon Mitchell. He's a jump shot away from being a complete player and a high-level NBA prospect. Obviously, without that at his size, it might be difficult for him to find a role at the next spot, but that doesn't stop him from being, as good of a college basketball player as you're going to find, especially with the pieces we have around him. We're not asking him to be our leading scorer. Thankfully, we don't need him to be a leading scorer, but everything else is just spades, man. He's a fabulous talent, and everything he said so far really points to a fabulous kid and a teammate. Let's take a look at the box score. Why don't we? 108 points, obviously high scoring, 74 points for Quinnipiac. So 26, a 34-point win to start the season. Can't complain there. Dillon Mitchell led the way, 18 points, 7 rebounds. Zuby Ejiofor, 17.6 rebounds. Did have 3 assists. I want to point out a couple leading the break dimes by Zuby yesterday. I can think of 2 in particular. One ended up being a dunk to Hopkins, which wasn't the smoothest pass, but it got there anyway. And one was a kick out, I think, to Shannon for a 3 in the first half, it looked natural. So not only do you have Mitchell and Hopkins as your bigs who can, rake and take and take it full court and spread it out, Zuby is showing more and more of a propensity to do that. I don't know if Rick wants to see it in big bunches, but from time to time, if he's cleaning that defensive glass and he's got numbers, he's shown that he can do that. So a good showing for Zuby, and 17-6 and 3 seems kind of ho-hum for Zuby, but you have that over the season, that's going to put him right there in that All-American conversation. You saw Jackson 15 points, 6 for 6. Hopkins and Isaiah Sellers, the other 2 starters, a little bit quieter offensively. I thought Hopkins showed a couple really good drive and dishes, a couple really good dump offs, led to dunks. He's tough to deal with inside. He gets low, kind of wedges people out with his shoulders and his hips, and that could a little bit of a Kadari feel to a couple of those drive and dumps I thought yesterday. Off the bench, Josan, 14 points. Looked really comfortable offensively. He is a talent, a physical talent, fun to watch, can really put the ball in the bucket. Io, man, not enough is said about Io. He is just the unsung hero for this team. Coach Pitino loves him to death, and his game has just improved. So solid. In any situation, Coach Pitino seems like he's comfortable putting him in there, whether it's an offensive spot, a defensive spot, early, late. Just trust him, and Io continues to deliver for him. And it's quite the relationship. I can't believe we haven't heard news about this red shirt. You'd think Rick would want him here as long as he wants, but apparently that his eligibility will run out at the end of this year. But Io, good performance. We'll stop there before we keep going. Your thoughts on any of those guys we mentioned?
I thought Josan looked, as you mentioned, amazing in spurts. You can see why there's a lot of NBA talent evaluators sniffing around and then thinking that he has the chance to be first round talent. Similarly to what we were talking about Dillon Mitchell, I thought Josan took the game over in spurts, whether it was shooting or creating for himself off the dribble. Looked really good. We'll get into it when we talk about Dillon, but if you're talking about our point guard, quote unquote, performances, Oziah with 5 assists, only 1 turnover, Dylan Darling, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. I mean, I felt pretty comfortable in those two guys doing the lion's share of, handling the ball, creating for others. I thought Bryce Hopkins, you mentioned, had a bunch of really, really nice passes. It's just an overall great performance by the entire team.
Yeah. Darling, 6 assists, 1 turnover. Sellers, 5 assists, 1 turnover. Obviously, that's a better just accounting number than we've seen these first 2 games in assist to turnover ratio. I want to hear your thoughts on what you thought from Dylan Darling tonight.
Dillon Mitchell, like I said, player of the game. I thought Dylan was unbelievable. Blew away any expectations that I had. Dylan Darling's probably my next player behind him that I thought had one of the most important performances that I needed to see out of a quote unquote bye game against Quinnipiac. We mentioned the 6 assists, 1 turnover. I thought he played really, really good defense, especially on ball defense. I get insanely fired up being at a basketball game or watching from my couch screaming in front of the TV about athletic feats of strength. Dillon Mitchell jumping up and blocking a guy's shot with an armpit. That gets me fired up. Something that gets me as equally fired up as a small little undersized guy like Dylan Darling playing rugged defense and taking a charge on a guy trying to throw his shoulder, back him down. I was screaming at my television. I was so fired up for that. I was really, really happy and really impressed with Dylan Darling's performance today.
Yeah, tough, physical, moves his feet well on defense. Obviously, the size is a factor, but if you can sell a charge once or twice a week, that's going to prevent bigger guards from trying to hunt you out there in the post, knowing that there's a possibility. I think he's got to be careful overselling that as the season progresses. That will get found out pretty quick, but not complaining about it. And it takes some balls to get out there, and the guy has size to play as physically as he does. I don't want to turn this into any type of negative talk about our guys. We played really good, but I just want to point out, you brought up Dillon's ability to be tough, scrappy. 4 rebounds for Dillon in 17 minutes, right? Jackson, 1 rebound in 17 minutes. Sellers, 3 rebounds in 23 minutes. Sannon, 2 rebounds in 17 minutes. So he out-rebounded all 3 of those guys. He also had 3 steals to their combined 3 steals. So 2 things that are really toughness, grit, anticipation, that defensive side of the ball. If you're around the basketball, right, that's how you make plays. Darling, you said you were very impressed, right? 1 for 6 from the field, still found ways to make this game have his imprint on it, right? If Jackson goes 1 for 6, do we know he's out there? That's the type of thing, the improvement I want to see from Jackson as he gets more comfortable. And this 6 for 6 is a great thing to settle him down, make him feel like he's playing well. Can he get on the boards? Can he get some deflections? Can he take care of the basketball? Because if our 6'1" guy is coming in for 17 minutes and battling, boxing out, getting his deflections and steals, then our 3'6'5" athletic guards who have worlds more of physical potential than him better be doing that as well.
Yeah, and I think the majority of Darling's missed shots came from open three-pointers that he just clanked, and those will come. You're not going to miss wide open three-point shots like that to that frequency. So not as concerned about his missed shots today. To your point about the rebounding from the guards, that was obviously a criticism that Rick had after the Michigan game, that he needed better rebounding from his guards. He mentioned in the post-game press conference that he thought the guards did a little bit better job, and he specifically called out Dillon Darling as being excellent on the glass.
Okay, yeah. This past week, I did see plenty of reference to him being on his guys for getting rebounds. So obviously, this is something Rick notices, right? So I'm not pulling out of thin air. I'm not trying to be hard on those guys. I think in order for us to reach our full potential, those guys are really going to have to play mega minutes and play best basketball on defense, and then not just make shots. Excuse me. Working our way down here. Lefty got a nice applause. Of course, took him 30 minutes to get in the game. It goes back to what I said earlier. That's just a tough puzzle for Rick to figure out. And Lefty is on the outside looking in right now. But got in there, hit a quick three, played pretty well, I thought. But he's looking like he's the next guy out of the rotation. Maybe Odie right there behind him. Thoughts on either of those two guys?
No, I think it's just the depth problem / asset that we have, that this team is so incredibly deep. I don't think in a pinch Rick would have any problem putting like a Kelvin Odie out there against higher level competition. I think he trusts him. Kid is obviously like an athletic specimen. The lefty, I think too, in a pinch can serve as a backup ball handler, and obviously in certain situations is a tremendous 3 points. Right. I just don't think that there's a necessity right now for those guys to be seeing major minutes, which is a good problem to have. And then I thought Ruben played very well. And I think, it's again, back to the depth point, like we have so much depth in that front court that you have a guy like Ruben, who I think could potentially start on a lot of Big East teams. And he's your fourth big. I think that's an amazing problem to have. Yeah,
Ruben, he did get beat on a few different. He was trying maybe to overextend his defense, but that's what Pitino wants. I can think of two situations where got him in some trouble and they end up scoring on him. But I love Ruben's energy, his effort. He's big out there. I think he's our biggest big in terms of covering space vertically and horizontally. He's grown up physically in this 1 year here in Queens, and the fans love him. Missed one or two bunnies, but if those drop, I think we'll just see more and more confidence from him, and his game will continue to increase.
Yeah, you talk about growing up physically. I mean, the body transformation of both Ruben and Lefty year over year. I mean, they just look so much more mature and so much more physically built. Like, kudos to both of them for really making that a priority in the offseason. Yeah,
Lefty's not a small guy. Bigger than he looks, I think. Solid 6'5" and long. Excuse me. All right, so Bama on Saturday, obviously. This will get kicked up a notch. What do you think St. John's has to do better on Saturday than they did today in order to take out Alabama?
Take care of the ball. It's going to be a real track meet. Like, Bama's pace of play is up and down. Obviously, that's what we want to do as well. Scoring wise, I'd love to see what the over-under is already for that game. I think if we take care of the ball, I think if we defend, I think there's a very good chance we walk out of MSG 2:00 on Saturday feeling good about ourselves. So take care of the ball. Ian Jackson, Jason Sanin, light it up from deep. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a tremendous game, tremendous early season opportunity to get a real win under our belts. I mean, hypothetically, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but you got to win over Bama. You take care of 3 bye games. William and Mary, I forget who the other one is, maybe Mercer, before we head to Vegas. If you're sitting there 4-0, heading to Vegas, things start getting real interesting real early.
Yeah, you said it, not me. Obviously, you're going out to Vegas, so that would be really good for you to be out there in a high-intensity situation. I think regardless what happens before then, you're going to have fun out there in Vegas. I think St. John's needs to come out and have a good first half against Bama. Obviously, that seems pretty obvious, but you saw tonight when they hit shots early how comfortable they looked, right? Don't want to fall down early, don't want to have to play from behind. I thought a good omen today was no one had more than 3 fouls. So we saw our guards struggle against Michigan, staying on the floor. No one had more than 3 fouls today. That's a good thing moving forward. We're going to need our guys to not get put on the bench because of dumb fouls early on, right? So especially against a team like Alabama that's got size, got talented guards, got to have our best 5 out there when it matters most. So keep it out of foul trouble. Making some free throws. Obviously, that was a little bit of a bugaboo tonight. 22 for 34, under 65% isn't great, but you saw Patino turn and yell at his assistants a few times about the free throw misses. What can you do at that point other than get back to the gym the next day and continue to work at it?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially after the season we had last year, you're happy to see that 3-point shooting percentage, 8 for 19. Obviously, that's helped, pushed up by Ian Jackson going 3 for 3. Again, turnovers, like, is 14 too high against a team at Quinnipiac's level? Like, I would want to clean that up. Good to see those offensive rebound numbers high. And to your point, like the fouls, that was obviously a huge problem in the exhibition games. Like, if you guards are staying out of foul trouble, if Isaiah Sellers isn't glued to the bench, if Ian Jackson isn't glued to the bench, I think that really set us back, especially in the Michigan game. So, just can't tell you how excited I am for Alabama on Saturday. I think it's just gonna be an awesome game.
Early game Saturday against Bama in the Garden. I won't be there. Cole, will you be there?
Will not be there, no, but I'll be glued 6 inches from my television screen, screaming just like I was there.
So I've got to watch about 12 hours of youth basketball Saturday. The guy that I run the program with is actually a huge Bama fan. So we're going to get some stream going at the gym while we're watching the youth games and try to keep our focus. But we should get a recap to you, if not right after Saturday, sometime during the weekend. Big shout out. Thanks for listening. Cole, thank you so much. For the Red Storm Rapid Reaction fans out there, please like, subscribe, follow. Shout out to Big East Energy Network. And till next time, this has been Willie Shaw with Pat Kane and Cole Atshaw, Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast.